my TikTok account to over 10,000 followers.
Hi, I'm not quite sure what's going on. The technology seems to be different to usual, so I may be connected and I may not be connected, but I'll proceed. So I don't know what else to do. I'm too old for technology. So I was a doctor in Perth, Western Australia for 53 years. First of all, working in hospitals, and then working for many years as a family doctor in the suburbs of Perth, where I did what doctors used to do in those days. We had not had a medical school in Perth, and we were short of doctors, and we were short of specialists. And general practitioners did a lot of stuff that are now done by specialists. So altogether in 53 years I had 500,000 consultations, home and hospital visits, helped 800 babies into the world, did a lot of tonsillectomies, appendectomies, vasectomies, cuts, broken bones, pneumonia, arthritis, whatever. And what concerned me was who suffered the most and got the worst treatment. and that was definitely addicts, alcoholics, chronic heavy smokers. And then in the late 1990s we had a big epidemic of heroin addiction, and people were dying right, left and centre. And I felt I needed to learn about heroin, so I started to work 10 hours a week in an addiction clinic which was 99% heroin. And I wanted to know what caused addiction, and nobody could tell me what caused addiction. I went to all the addiction clinics in Perth and Sydney and could not find a single addiction worker who could tell me what caused addiction. They would say offhand things like, oh, they're just dickheads chasing high. But to me, they looked sick. And then one day in the addiction clinic where I was working 10 hours a week, I saw 15 heroin addicts, and 5 of them had ADD, ADHD, which was not treated and not diagnosed. And it was clear that these people had been had distressed childhoods. Their preschool childhoods were distressing, and then their school years were distressing. They caused problems in the classroom because they were hyperactive and impulsive and interrupted what was going on. So they often got a very poor education and left school early, and then had trouble with employment. And they tended to come from the poorer end of town because a lot of them had one parent, and a few had 2 parents who had ADD, so they had poor employment and poor income, and they were impulsive, and they tended not to have good relationships with doctors, and they were sitting ducks for the people pushing street drugs. So a lot of them just started street drugs and became addicts. And what I found was that they were then in a terrible situation, because in Western Australia in the 1970s they separated mental health care clinics from addiction clinics, and the mental health care clinics refused to see any addicts. If you were an addict, you couldn't get mental health care from a free mental health clinic, and very few of them could afford private psychologists or psychiatrists. And we GPs were not very well trained. My training in mental health care as a medical student was 8 one-hour lectures and 2 visits to mental health hospitals. But a lot of people with mental health issues had to rely on us general practitioners, and we had to do the best we could, which wasn't always very good. Recently I've read that 38% of family doctor consultations, general practitioner consultations now, are mental health consultations. And what was most tragic was that it was apparent that the mental health care services could not cope by a long shot with all the mental health care that was needed in the community. So many people with mental health care problems were getting almost no health care help, and none were getting enough health care help. And the problem was that the tools that the mental health care professionals used were very limited and had big problems. so many, the two tools were talk therapy and medicines. The medicines had two great weaknesses. So many of them were addictive. All the medicines for anxiety, worry disorders, which was the commonest mental health disorders, were addictive. All the sleep medicines were addictive. And the three main medicines for ADD, ADHD, dexamphetamine, Ritalin, and Adderall, were all addictive. And talk therapy, the other problem with medicines was they were very slow. They nearly all came as tablets or capsules. And when you swallow a tablet or a capsule, it takes half an hour to an hour to go down your gut and start to be absorbed, and 1 to 2 hours before it's working strongly. And that's just too slow for many mental health problems and for addiction cravings. The other tool was talk therapy, counseling, psychotherapy, CBT, whatever you like to call it, but basically talking to the patient, and that was too slow. You needed an hour with a new patient to go into their history and to try to find what their diagnosis was, what illnesses they had, what the causes were, and how to manage those problems. And then you had to see them from half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, every week for weeks or months, and that was just too slow. And talk therapy was too costly. To be a therapist, you had to be an intelligent person with at least a 4-year Bachelor of Psychology degree from a university. And a lot of psychologists had 6 or 7-year PhDs. And to be a psychiatrist, you had to do a 6-year general medical degree, then some medical practice training, then 3 or 4 or 5 years of postgraduate psychiatric training. So 10 to 12 years to become a psychiatrist. So those people needed to be paid well. They were very intelligent, capable people with very long training, and they deserved to be paid well. And if we didn't pay them well, we'd have even less of them. So the tools were weak. And then what I found was that there were many areas which you could call blind spots or blind zones in mental health care. 8 of them that I could see, where things were being ignored or not being helped, which were quite fundamental to the care of the person. The first was that people just didn't look for causes. A mental health care patient would go on for years and years having treatment without the cause being found. And when you don't find the cause, it's much harder to help people to get better, and they're much more likely to relapse if they do get better. The second thing, blind area, was that people were mostly treated as solo persons, as if they were on their own. But nearly all mental health disorders are family problems, and it's much harder to get someone with a mental health problem better if the family situation isn't taken into account, and if the family situation continues the same, then the patient is likely to relapse. And a third blind area was that much mental health problems is transgenerational trauma. People, this generation has got mental health problems, anxiety, depression, ADD, bipolar, or whatever, because a parent or a grandparent or a great-grandparent suffered something terrible. It's essential in dealing, unless the cause is very obvious, and wherever the cause is not obvious and the patient is very difficult to get better, you must inquire and find what disasters happened to their mother or father, or one or more of their grandparents or great-grandparents. In my family, I discovered in my 80s that the problems were due to had come down mainly from a great-grandmother who had 9 children, starting at the age of 16. At the age of 16 she had a son. By the time she was 22 she had 4 sons, and then her alcohol-troubled husband deserted her and left her, and then she had, at 24, she had a daughter, my grandmother, and then another daughter by a friend that she never married. And then at the age of 30 she did get married again, and she had 2 more babies 10 months apart, and then another baby, and then she died at 42 from cancer. Undoubtedly all the stress and strain she'd been through depressed her immune system. She got cancer probably when she was in her late 30s and died when she was 42. And that transgenerational trauma affected right down to my generation as grandchildren, but also to great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren. So transgenerational trauma is a big blind area and a cause of ineffectiveness of the present mental health care system, which means that people go on and on having treatment, which means there are more and more waiting lists, and the situation's just getting worse and worse. The 4th blind area is habits. 60 to 65% of our life is habits. Our brain has so much to do that it can't do everything consciously by conscious attention and effort. Anything that gets repeated often gets turned into a habit, so it happens unconsciously and automatically, so the brain can focus on the difficult things, the very difficult things, the new things and the things that need changing. But the things that have happened many, many times until they became a habit are not focused on by your brain. And the best, most helpful way to view many cases of mental health disorder is that they are bad habits. Anxiety is a bad habit. Now, I don't mean bad habit in the sense that you're naughty, but it's a bad habit in the sense that it's very traumatic and unhelpful. How do you come to have an anxiety disorder when you're 40? You have it because you've been anxious so many times, so often, that the underlying triggers and electrical messages that pass from your brain down your nerves, and chemical messages that pass from your brain and glands in your blood to the various parts of your body, that those flows have become so strong and that they are hard to stop, and they just happen very easily, almost automatically, almost unconsciously. So teaching people to make new habits and to break bad old habits, harmful habits, is one of the most important things you can do for a person with mental health disorders. But I never heard habits being mentioned in the mental health world. Another blind area, in my opinion, is that we focused on diagnoses, telling people what they had wrong with them, when it was far more effective to focus on what they wanted, what they needed to have a good life. Sure, I think it's helpful to know what a person's mental health illness is, and a lot of people are relieved to get that diagnosis, but the real thing that helps them get better is to know what they want and need to be healthy and happy. So not you've got an anxiety state, but you need to be calmer and more relaxed. Not that you've got ADD, ADHD, but that you need to learn to focus and concentrate better, and to not be so impulsive and not be hyperactive. So that was, in my opinion, a serious blind area. We must help people to understand what they want and need to have a good life. Another weakness was that people were not being taught to help themselves. It's very important in all kinds of sickness to do as much as you can yourself. And when there's a great shortage of specialists to treat you, you particularly need to do as much as you can for yourself. But nobody seemed to being taught how to help themselves. A very big problem was that mental health disorders were not being treated as emergencies, and they often didn't receive any help or care or good specialist help or care until they'd had a problem for 5, 10, 20 years. And problems lead to problems, which lead to complications, including the terrible complication of addiction, that make it 10 or 20 times more work to help someone than if you helped them when they first got the problem. Starting to fix problems early is just so important, and it just seemed to, I never heard anyone mention the importance of getting help early. Just wait your turn. Might be 3 months, might be 6 months, and while they were waiting, their problems got worse. Many ended up in hospital, some ended up being criminals in prison, and some ended up in the cemetery. Mental health problems should be treated as an emergency and receive help and care as early as possible. Another problem, perhaps not as big as some of those problems, is blame, but it seemed as if a lot of the focus in mental health care was find someone to blame. Oh, your mother wasn't a good mother, your father wasn't a good, your brother was this or that or the other. Mental health problems are usually social problems that involve many members of the family, and to some extent the community and the culture, and blaming an individual is just not correct. It's not correct, and it's very harmful, because if someone gets blamed, they usually get very defensive and dishonest, and what you really want to do is to find out what exactly happened that caused the problem and why it happened. And people have to tell you the truth before you find that out. And if they think they're going to be blamed, they either won't tell you anything, or they tell you mischievous things, dishonest things. So, big problem. I believe mental health disorders and the associated complications of addictions, divorce, often poverty, homelessness are the biggest problems faced in developed countries. Sure, there may be poor countries where getting enough to eat and a roof over your head is more important than your mental health, but in my experience, one of the most important things to get enough to eat and to get a nice roof over your head is to be mentally healthy. Nothing more important to have a good life than to be mentally healthy, to have healthy, normal feelings, thoughts, habits, to be mentally healthy. And the second most important thing is to have enough good relationships, and the good relationships were much easier if you were mentally healthy, and almost impossible if you were mentally very unhealthy. What was the solution? Over a period of 27 years, I developed 8 tools, because nobody tries to do anything very much these days without very good tools. If there's a job to be done and there isn't a good tool to do it, someone makes a tool. Tools make things faster, easier, better, lower cost. Tools, so important. Think of all the tools in the kitchen now. When I was a boy, there was only 2 tools in the kitchen. A big tin dish that you washed your plates and cups and knives and forks in, and a wood stove that you had to light and keep on putting wood on all day. Now we've got gas, electricity, ovens and stoves you can switch on and switch off, refrigerators, air conditioning, grinders, carvers, all sorts of tools. Everywhere tools, but not in mental health and not in addiction. In mental health and addiction, just medicines which have big problems, and talk therapy which has big problems. So what are the tools that I developed? Just skimming over it, videos. There's no faster, better, easier, cheaper, lower cost way to understand a mental illness, if you've got it, than to watch good videos on it. I used to spend so much time explaining to people their problems, and half the time when they walked out the door they'd got it all confused. Perhaps my fault as well as theirs, but having stuff explained to you one at a time by a costly healthcare professional is not viable. Videos, and it used to be longer videos. My first video about 14 years ago, I think it was, got 10,000 viewings in 9 months. But people, and I did another 8, and then I did 31. But people stopped looking at those long videos and only looked at the 1-minute TikTok videos. In fact, even a minute was too long. So now I've got about 90 under a minute videos, and each video explains some point about mental health, its nature, its causes, its treatment very clearly, and people can look at that on their phone, on their tablet, on their laptop, and they can do it anytime, anywhere that suits them when they're motivated and focused on that problem, and they can do it as often as they need to. If they need to watch a 1-minute video 3 times now, twice tomorrow, and then once or twice every week until they get it, that's still the best way. So videos. Secondly, websites. People should be able to, anywhere on their phone, on their laptop, on their tablet, go to a website which has got information. My website was mentalhealthvideos.com, mentalhealthvideos.com, but in the end that was too long and people wanted a shorter one. So now I've also got smilefixit.com, which has got everything on one page, and you can just tap a link and go to wherever you want the detail. The third tool was an app. When I got very busy, I developed a checklist with 20 questions and got an assistant to see all the new patients and do the checklist with them first, and then I could do in 10 minutes what had taken me 30 or 35 minutes if I had to do everything without a checklist. So the checklist was great, but it still wasn't as good as it could be, because people still had to come to the surgery, had to make an appointment. It involved another member of staff. So then we made an app, the Mental Fixit app. And making apps is a lot of work, and it's very expensive. But we made the Mental Fixit app about 18 months ago, and it was 38 questions that asked all the most important things about mental health and addiction and related social and physical things. And people had, for most items, they had to tap one of three possible answers: no, yes, moderate, yes, severe. And they could tap through the 38 questions in about 10 minutes. But several hundred people downloaded the app, but that wasn't the solution. We needed something that thousands of people could do. So I cut the questions from 38 to 19, so people could do the app, the Mental Fixit app, in about 5 minutes. And when they tapped any question no twice, which meant that it wasn't a problem for them, then that question wouldn't get asked again for the next 4 times, so that it got to be less than 5 minutes. But at present we're working hard on revising the whole concept of the Mental Fixit app so that people can do it in 2 minutes. So someone has a problem, they smash their car, their wife leaves them, one of the kids breaks their leg, whatever, they have a problem, anxiety problem, depression problem, whatever problem, they whiz their phone out, they tap the App Store or Google Play button and download the Mental Fixit app in a few seconds, and then do the 5-minute check, but soon they'll be able to do a 2-minute check and get an instant report comes up on the screen of their phone that tells them 4 things, and that 4 things it gives them great progress in getting better. It tells them which 6 of our 100 or of our 90 1-minute videos is going to help their mix of problems the fastest and the best, because everybody has got different problems, and if the videos have to be a minute or less, then there has to be 90 of them. And then which videos does this person watch and that person watch? Well, the Mental Fixit app tells them the 6 videos. So in 10 minutes, download the app, do the 2-minute app, read the instant report, watch 6 videos, and you're miles in front. And then live streaming was the next tool. I'd never heard of live streaming, but I found that that's what people love doing, was watching live streaming. And so now we do live streaming 4 times a week on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Facebook and Instagram. But the technology of doing all 4 of those simultaneously is a bit tricky, and I'm too old for technology, and my very very helpful technical assistant has been in the US doing a course in New York for 3 months, but he's been back for a week. So, but tonight something has happened, and I'm not sure whether the technology is right or not. The TikTok thing is showing things to press to invite people to join, and I just don't know what that means or how it happens. I'll have to talk to my tech guy. But yeah, so we used to mostly get between 3,000 and 4,000 live streaming viewers on TikTok, and a lot on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, and occasionally far more than that. Once 4,700 viewers on TikTok, once 8,600 viewers, once 8,700 viewers, and so that seemed to be an extremely powerful tool for getting information out. So I've focused on that. But because although mental health and addiction seems like a massive problem, it's limited. There's about 90 items, and I repeat myself a lot. So a lot of people, I think, when they've seen me talk about the same thing 5 times, don't watch anymore. So now the number of viewers is more likely to be 1.5 thousand, 1,800 or 2,200. But the other thing is that I was doing the live streaming at 7 p.m. Perth time on Wednesday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. But sometimes many of our viewers are in the Northern Hemisphere, in America, Canada, the UK, Sweden, Oslo. So I now do Perth time, 7 p.m. Wednesday, Friday and Saturday, and 9 a.m. Sunday, because 7 p.m. Perth time is 9 p.m. Sydney and Melbourne time, which is okay, but it's 7 a.m. New York time and 4 a.m. Los Angeles time, and God knows what in London. So that was very user unfriendly, and sometimes we were 30 or 40% of our people were from those areas. So now we do the Sunday morning 9 a.m. here, which is probably 9 p.m. in the Northern Hemisphere, and I may have to do 2 morning sessions and 2 evening sessions. So so that's 4 tools. What was the 5th tool? The 5th tool is powder medicine. Why powder medicine? Because if you drop powder medicine on your tongue and suck it, don't swallow it, it starts to work in 5 minutes. And it works strongly in 10 to 15 minutes, instead of taking 30 to 60 minutes to go right down your gut and start to work. And after people have been doing the powder on the tongue thing, which works so quickly because your tongue is pink or red because the blood vessels are so close to the surface, and when you sprinkle thousands of tiny granules of medicine powder, it gets into the blood vessels in your tongue very quickly, and this very quickly gets to your brain or to wherever else it needs to be. But also soon your brain starts to put together the fact that you have this taste, and 5 minutes later you start to get better, and then you get conditioning. You've probably heard about Pavlov's dog and salivating conditioning. Well, this is taste conditioning, and as soon as you taste it, you drop the powder on your tongue and it reaches your taste bud, it starts to work. So starting to work in seconds and working strongly in 5 to 10 minutes is far more helpful for mental health disorders that suddenly come on or get worse. and or for addiction craving, for trying not to smoke, trying not to get drunk, trying not to take heroin, trying not to take ice. Powder medicine just works so much better. It's also much more accurate because everybody needs a different dose. It depends on how much you weigh, how fast your gut works, how fast your kidneys work and your liver works. And with tablets and capsules, sure, they often make, or sometimes make, 1 or 2 or 3 different strengths. They sometimes make you can break tablets in halves, even quarters, but you still don't get exactly the right dose. But with powder, is flexible, very flexible, and you can get exactly the right dose for each particular person. Powder in a pocket dispenser is cheaper than prescriptions, and you can mix 2 or 3 or 4 powders together, which we do. So people with a serious mental health disorder never only have one mental health disorder. They've always got 2, 3, 4 or 5 more. And with slow talk therapy, they usually often don't get past the first or the biggest or the second biggest. But with the mental fix-it-up, we find everything, and then one medicine doesn't fix 6 different things, but we can mix different powder medicines together very easily, and so deal with the biggest problem, the second biggest problem, the third biggest problem, and the addiction craving. So powder much better. But powder in a bottle with a scoop, a bit awkward, clumsy, hard to do in a public place. So I made these pocket dispensers, so you have the medicine that you need, 2, 3 or 4 different medicines in your pocket. You whiz it out wherever you are, even driving a car, you can just whiz it out and drop the powder on your tongue. Suck it, don't swallow it. Starts to work in 5 minutes and then in seconds. So the 5th tool was powder medicine, 6th tool was pocket powder dispensers, 7th tool is heartbeat meditation aids. Meditation is so helpful for people with mental health problems, but the people who would benefit most from meditation often can't learn to do it because you have to breathe steadily and focus on your breathing and forget about your problems, and they can't do that if their problems are very bad. But focusing on your breathing or a word so that you can have a rest from your worries is not very mind-grabbing, but listening to your heart is. And I'd been listening to people's hearts for 50 years with a stethoscope, and I knew how loud and interesting a heartbeat is, so I just cut the stethoscope short, and you can pop it in your ears. That's the listening part. You just put it down under your clothes over the upper left part of your chest and listen to your heart beating, which is loud, and that helps you to stop thinking about all the other things. You can learn to meditate that way, and then eventually, or after a couple of months, you can meditate without the heartbeat meditation aid. If you want a heartbeat meditation aid, they're $25 plus postage anywhere in the world. And I've now got an 8th tool. The 8th tool, wrong one. This is the 8th tool. This is also a pocket powder dispenser, but not medicine. It's fruit powder. Very nice tasting fruit powder. Fruit powder is becoming more popular worldwide. Everywhere they are using fruit powder to make desserts and sweets and drinks and thick shakes, and you can now buy fruit powders anywhere. And I thought that if we could give people a very nice taste with something harmless, it's not even medicine, that would help them. It just gives them pleasure. If they feel bad, they can just whip this out and drop it on their tongue. I'll show you how. You just press it like that and the powder comes out. So if you're going to have a cigarette, you're going to have a nice taste instead, and focus on the nice taste and not think about the cigarette. If you're trying not to drink too much alcohol, you can have nice taste. If you're trying not to take heroin or ice or whatever, or trying not to be angry or trying not to be anxious, just have a lovely taste and focus on that. And it's very helpful for making and breaking habits. So if you want to make a habit, and often we want to make a habit which we don't like very much, like exercise, or focusing and concentrating on studying or doing something. But if every time, and you turn things into a habit by repeating them over and over and over again until the electrical and chemical triggers and messages are strong and it becomes automatic, it becomes a habit. But every time you think about exercising, you have a lovely taste, you become conditioned to that. And every time you start the exercise, you have another lovely taste, and that makes that experience more desirable. It's easier for you to do it more often. It's easier for it to become a habit. And if you want to stop a habit, break a habit, like smoking, for instance. Smoking kills 7 million people a year in the world, and for everyone it kills, it ruins the life of lots of others. So a good habit to stop. How do you stop habits? You make habits by doing them over and over again until the messages get stronger and stronger and stronger, and it becomes automatic. You break habits, you can do it in two ways. The old timers say, just go cold turkey, just stop. As I think it was Ronald Reagan's wife said, just say no. Okay, well, going cold turkey doesn't work for most people. It works for a few, but it doesn't work for most people, and a lot of people who go cold turkey relapse fairly soon. But if every time you think about doing a bad habit that you don't want to do, or you start to do it, you have a lovely taste, and you focus on that lovely taste, you can delay doing the bad habit for a few minutes. Say with smoking, you can have a taste and not smoke, put off smoking for 15 minutes. As soon as the first taste starts to fade, you have another taste. It only costs a few cents for each taste, and then another taste, and then after 15 minutes you smoke. But that delaying weakens the triggers and the messages. That's how you break a habit. You weaken the triggers and the messages by delaying them and by doing less of them. When you've smoked 3 quarters of the cigarette, you throw the last quarter away and have another taste, so you do a bit less of it. And that weakens the habit a little bit, the electrical and chemical triggers and messages. And then you can delay a bit longer and do a bit less. And then it's easy to delay a bit longer and do even less. And that's, so after 2 weeks, you're smoking a quarter less. After 4 weeks, you're smoking a half less. After 6 or 8 weeks, you're down to a quarter of what you used to smoke, and it's comparatively comfortable. And then 8, 10 or 12 weeks you just stop smoking, and you carry the lovely taste in your pocket everywhere. And if you're ever tempted to relapse, which happens pretty often, instead of being a terrible battle, you just whiz out your lovely taste and have a lovely taste again, and you don't relapse. So that's the 8th tool. The 9th and 10th tools are going to be wonderful, just wonderful, and I work on them day and night, but it's going to take a while to do, and I mustn't talk about them now, but we're going to end up with 10 wonderful tools. Now I'm going to take a bit of a risk. I don't know what this invitation stuff is, but when I'm going to press on an invite and see what happens. I do like to talk to people, and I do want to hear what their comments are, what their questions are, what their criticisms are, how they'd like to do it more often, so whichever platform you watch on, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Fixit, Instagram or Facebook, please send me your comments, your questions and your criticisms, or email me. The email spelt how it sounds is healthestuff@gmail.com, healthestuff@gmail.com. And if you can't remember that, just go to smilefixit.com, which is pretty easy to remember, smilefixit.com, which is a website, and you'll find the email address there, and email us. And tonight when I finish, I will be doing looking at all the comments, questions and emails that come, and I'll do that again in the morning. Now I've got Crispy Gal as an invited guest. Now I don't know what I do next. I don't know whether I've pressed the right button. Someone says they can't quit sugar. You need to get tool number 8, lovely taste. Every time you want to eat sugary stuff, confectionery, chocolate, cakes, biscuits, which has got a lot of sugar in, just have a lovely taste of your favorite fruit powder instead, which has got a little bit of fruit sugar, fructose in it, but no cane sugar in it, because we've got the sugar problem is very big, because what's happened in the last 3 generations is that instead of people doing lots of heavy physical work and needing 3,000 or 4,000 calories, they're like me, they sit at a desk and they only need 1,500 calories. And if they still have 3,000 or 4,000 calories, they get fat, and then they become diabetic, and they have heart attacks and strokes. So one problem is we need less and less calories. The other problem is that sugar, which used to be very expensive and only rich people can afford it, is now cheap. You go into a supermarket and see a big bag of sugar and see how little it costs. So the food and drink industry puts sugar in everything, as much as they can in everything, because it costs them, the cost to put it in is low. People love the taste of sugar, and sugar is as addictive as cocaine. If you don't believe that sugar is addictive, do a ChatGPT search on it. Sugar is addictive. And it's easy to store, easy to use and easy to manage, so we're getting more and more sugar and more calories, and we need less and less calories. So it's a problem. Let's try joining again. So now Jack Chapman, Jack Chalman. I'm not quite sure what I have to do now. Say hi. Sorry, I don't know how to do this join technology. People often want me to join them, other live streamers want me to join them. I don't know how to do that. People want to talk to me or join me. I don't know how to do that, but now I can see TikTok is sending me a message that I should learn how to do this, so I'll hopefully get my tech guy to show me how to do it, and we'll be able to do it in the future. In the meantime, we'll just I don't know, just continue. So these are some of the things that I've been thinking about. Get a good life with more and more mentally healthy, good feelings, good thinking, good habits, and good relationships. There are no perfect mothers, no perfect fathers, families, homes, neighborhoods, schools, or cultures. So every child, not just some people, every child has some childhood suffering and some mental health damage, and the most important thing that they can do and that we can do for them is to help them to recover from any childhood trauma as early as possible. Some, the trauma is not very great, some it's just terrible, shocking, but fixing childhood trauma should be the number one thing in mental health. Learn to keep your 25 feel-good chemicals strong. Yes, we've got 25 chemicals in our brain and our body that help us to feel good. That's dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, noradrenaline, and over 20 endorphins. Yeah, endorphins are endogenous morphines. Yes, we produce endogenous morphines to help to kill pain and distress and do other things. Especially they help to manage the immune system, and the immune system is cells, antibodies and chemicals in every part of us that fights infections, allergies, inflammation, autoimmune diseases and cancers. So when you feel good, your immune system is strong, you don't get sick. When you feel bad, your happy chemistry is low, your immune system is low, and you're more likely to get sick. And the very interesting thing is, we've known for quite a long time that feeling good is due to 25 chemicals, or about 25 chemicals, but science has now shown that when we smile or laugh, we produce more happy chemicals. when we're happy and we smile and we laugh, we produce more happy chemistry. So one of the most important new habits is the habit of smiling. You should smile as much as you can, as often as you can, until it's almost automatic. I wish I'd learned that a long time ago, but thank God I did learn it. Another thing is that we sometimes wake up not very good in the morning, lacking in energy, low in mood, not very motivated, a bit grumpy. Make every day a good day by developing morning habits that boost your feel-good chemistry. When you wake in the morning, or when I wake in the morning now, I always play some lovely music. I particularly love The Voice Kids, Britain's Got Talent, America's Got Talent, and Romanian and Colombian singers. I love them. So 5, 10 or 15 minutes of music, and then look at a few family photos or photos of friends or videos that I love, and then have something nice to eat that's not got sugar in it. Coffee is good for your health. Not too much, of course, but coffee is good, and a lot of the different kinds of teas, especially green tea, is good, although green tea I don't like it very much. You develop 3 or 4 or 5 habits that make you feel good, that you do as soon as you wake up in the morning, and then every day is good. One of the habits is the tasty powder. Another way of cutting bad habits is what I call quick switching. Develop 3 or 4 things that you really love doing that are harmless, that you can start very quickly, and every time you think about doing the habit you're trying to break or start to do it, quick switch to one of those other things. Quick switch to a lovely taste, quick switch to some lovely music, quick switch to a favorite photos or whatever. So quick switching. And a hug a day keeps the doctor away. Even better than an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So get enough closeness, caring, touching, affection, love. Get it and give it. Loneliness is as harmful as 15 cigarettes a day. Lonely people get old sooner, unhealthy sooner, die younger. A lot of people say, I don't care about dying a bit younger, but they don't want to lose their driver's license, and they don't want to end up in a nursing home. So a hug a day keeps the doctor away. Loneliness is as damaging as 15 cigarettes a day. Good sleep is health and happiness necessity. It's not a luxury. A lot of people think that sleep is a sort of a luxury, but it's not a luxury. Good sleep is essential to good health and to happiness. So we've got a 1-minute video called Sleep Well. Go to Sleep Well. And we've got 1-minute videos on worry, anxiety, on depression, bipolar, on ADD, on irritability, anger, violence. One woman is killed every 4 days in Australia by her partner or ex-partner, and for everyone that's killed there's hundreds who are very unhappy and in physical and mental danger because of a partner, usually the man, but not always, sometimes the woman, who's got IAD, irritability anger disorder. That's the name I made up for it because it didn't seem to have a name. Yes. I think maybe that's enough for one day. So today is Wednesday. I'll be back again Friday at 7 p.m. Perth time, and Saturday at 7 p.m. Perth time, and 9 a.m. Sunday, which is in the evening in the Northern Hemisphere. And please send me your comments, questions and criticisms through the platform you usually use, or through the email healthestuff@gmail.com, which you can find at smilefixit.com. So, bye.